welcome everyone. We're just going to give a minute for people to join, just letting people in through the lobby, and then we will kick off shortly. Okay, I think we'll make a start. There's lots of people joining, so we will kick off. So thank you to everybody for joining this webinar with us today, wherever you are. We're going to deliver about half an hour, 35 minutes presentation for you. Make sure there is plenty of time for Q&A. So we'll get going with a couple of introductions. So introduction to myself, my name is Jenny Merriman. I'm based in WSP in the UK, in London, and I'm a director in our Earth and Environment business. I'm the strategic lead at the moment for our nature advisory services. And today I'm going to be presenting alongside my colleague Ben. So I'll just give Ben a moment to introduce himself as well.
Thank you, Jenny. Hi, everybody. I'm Ben O'Hickey. I'm based with WSP Canada in Toronto, and I'm a lead advisor and the team lead for the Canadian ESG, climate change and nature advisory team.
Thank you, Ben. And we also have Julie Pizzuto with us today. She's going to be keeping an eye on the Q&A chat and coming in to join us at the end to help answer questions. So welcome, Julie. Do you want to do a brief intro?
Hi everyone, so I'm Julie Pizzuto, based from Montreal office, also a Sustainability Strategic Advisory Practice Lead here in Montreal.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, so just having a quick look at an agenda for the presentation. So we will introduce Nature Vista, where it's coming from, why we have decided to develop this platform, and give you some insight into what exactly it is. And then Ben will talk through a couple of practical case studies for you. So one focused from more of the site or asset level, and a second one looking more as a portfolio manager across multiple assets and how the platform can be used in that way also. As I said, we'll keep this to hopefully about half an hour and make sure that there's plenty of time at the end to have a discussion and address any questions that you might have. The Q&A is active, so if you do have questions as we go through, please do feel free to use that function. And if we're able to answer anything sort of quickly as we run through, then we'll try and tick those off as we go. So if we move to our first slide. Earlier this year, we announced a strategic alliance with Microsoft, combining our deep engineering and science knowledge with Microsoft's best-in-class technology to bring digital solutions to market and to help solve our shared clients' most pressing challenges. So Nature Vista is the first of these solutions arising from that strategic alliance. And so it's a pleasure to be able to talk to you about what we've developed today. In terms of where it's coming from, this has sort of been an evolution of our work over the last, many years really. WSP is a professional services firm. We deliver advisory, engineering and science support to over 200,000 projects internationally. We have 23,000 environmental professionals. About 5,000 of those are working specifically on nature and biodiversity as specialists in that space. So really we felt that we have a huge opportunity to leverage our environmental expertise across sectors and across geographies to have the ability to pull this science, to pull expert knowledge and data together from across many projects into one platform. So reflecting on the needs of the clients that we've engaged with over the last few years, exploring what else is on the market and recognising the ability of us to have this global reach, we've combined the intelligence of our environmental specialists with the artificial intelligence that supports this to provide information quickly and credibly, enabling users of the platform to really shift the time that they're spending away from gathering nature-related information and into action and delivery, which of course is really important. In terms of those sort of challenges that we've come across, we've sort of identified 4 that have been common in terms of where we've engaged with different businesses in different parts of the world. Fundamentally, a challenge for everybody is that nature data are fragmented and quite often inaccessible. Within a business, there might be lots of different systems even, and then outside of that, obviously, we know that the data is quite disparate. So trying to bring that all together is a really important step forward. A lot of tools will show where risks exist. They may not fill in all the pieces of the puzzle. So that's something, again, that we've been very focused on, looking at how we can provide an end-to-end solution for users of the tool. And reflecting on the challenge of compliance, we know that lots of organisations are really challenged by looking across multiple frameworks, different standards, and trying to tackle the lack of a standardised nature reporting outlook. So recognising that we need to try and streamline some of this and make it easier for companies to be able to report in an efficient way. And the final challenge, which we recognise, is around the time intensity of collecting data, particularly around impact assessments. These are costly, they can be slow, and they do consume a lot of time and resource. So any way that we can try and make that more streamlined is going to be positive for organisations using this tool. So with that in mind, what we have seek to do is to really try and enable users of this platform to do more with less. So to be able to make quick decisions, to prioritise where to take action. So it's based in obviously our expertise and using AI to facilitate and drive that efficiency, but keeping that science-based approach. So it's an end-to-end solution to help us to understand how to assess, integrate and take action on nature and biodiversity across the business at different levels. It's a platform that can operate independently, but could also be used to integrate the results into existing platforms that users may already have. It takes advantage of that global reach and expertise that we have as WSP environmental professionals to really produce comprehensive information and a very comprehensive data catalogue from which we use the AI agent to interrogate the data lake that we have and enable any particular user to draw on a suite of data sets that would suit their particular case in terms of context, sector and geography. So I'm going just to pass on to looking at a graphic before we do a short video for you. Essentially what we're trying to represent with this is the combination of extensive data hub, data lakehouse, and how that can be drawn on by 3 different modules. The one that we're going to focus on today is the one that you see at the top, outlined in red, which is the nature disclosure tool, but I'll just talk briefly through all 3. So that top one is looking at how to support organisations to collate the information needed to report on nature-related impacts, dependencies, risks and opportunities. It uses the LEAP framework from the Task Force for Nature-Related Financial Disclosures currently as recognised best practice in this space currently, and allows clients to look at how they evaluate maturity towards nature and report and identify priority actions. The second module is in relation to environmental monitoring. So this one uses satellite imagery and other sources of data, including from users themselves, to enable information to be gathered from across the organisation. It might be from multiple sites, for example, to collate performance data on a regular basis and in real time. And the final module is around impact assessment. So as we know, many organisations are required to undertake EIAs or EIAs to identify the potential environmental impacts of new developments. And this again gathers an extremely large amount of information. So by positioning that data in this platform, it can also support a much more efficient process to accelerate an impact assessment and planning opportunity. The most important thing about these three modules is that through the use of AI and through the way that we are recognising the connectedness between these three aspects, they will all sort of talk to each other and enable an organisation to use all three suites if that makes sense for them, and to be able to allow the information to feed into each other across the different components. So with that, I'm going to hand over to just a short video, and then following the video, Ben's going to actually go through a practical use case for you all.
Thank you, Jenny. So as mentioned, the aim now is to take you through a number of potential use cases that we envisage Nature Vista solving, particularly with relation to those four key challenges that Jenny mentioned at the start of the presentation. So in this first use case and the first case study that I want to talk you through, we want to look at how Nature Vista can support at the asset level to enable users to understand in detail their nature-related impacts, dependencies, risks and opportunities for assets at the asset level. So to go through this use case, we want to introduce an example persona user that will be using Nature Vista and will take us through the next steps. So we want to introduce EcoGrid, which is a fictional fictional energy company in across Great Britain that owns 30 assets that range from, say, power lines to energy stations to wind turbines and hydroelectric dams. In this first use case, they've got a specific need about trying to understand those impacts, dependencies, risks and opportunities associated with one specific site. So diving into Nature Vista, we'll show you how we envisage the user from EcoGrid to being able to access the software and the platform and gain the benefits from its assessment. So as the user, as the EcoGrid site manager, I'm able to log into Nature Vista and I'm provided with a summary of all the individual sites that are across my portfolio. Within this map, I'm able to quickly interrogate a number of pieces of information and gain a very concise summary of my assets. So this includes looking at which assets have scored high according to an automated assessment looking at the on-call criteria and criticality. I'm also able to interact with the map in a number of different ways, such as changing to satellite imagery and using a number of different base maps that suits my need at the time. So as mentioned in this user case study, I want to talk through looking at one specific site and understanding the details around that site. So within the Nature Vista platform, I'm able to, oh, I'm very sorry, I'm just going to change that. Apologies. So within the Nature Vista platform, I'm able to look at my specific site. So here I've got my 24 EcoGrid sites, including this specific site that I want to look at, EcoGrid number 24. So here I can see the zone of influence for the site. I can see where it aligns with other infrastructure and how it might interact with a number of different assets nearby. If I want to look at that site in any specific detail, I can select it from the map interface, or I can choose it from this drop-down menu here. So here I can see my map interface for the specific site. In this case, we're going to talk through number 24. So EcoGrid 24, this asset is an overhead line. I'm able to see the asset area, the asset type that it falls into, and then the initial assessment from the on-call score. Within Nature Vista, I'm also able to look at the zone of influence that has been used as part of the locate assessment, and I'll be able to adjust the zone of influence as I see fit for the asset based on my understanding of it and its boundary. In order to complete the locate phase of the TNFD, I'm able to interrogate the sensitivity analysis that has been carried out automatically by the Nature Vista platform for this particular site. This covers the 4 different TNFD areas, including threatened species, ecosystem integrity, water risk, and protected areas. Within each of these categories, I'm showing a visual representation of the data layers and how my asset interacts with them so I can understand. I'm able to interrogate the data in more detail to get an understanding of which threatened species have been identified as overlapping with my site, and carrying out the same exercise for water risk, ecosystem integrity, and also protected areas. So within this locate interface, I'm very quickly able to understand the location of my asset, get an understanding of how it interacts with the other assets within my portfolio or other infrastructure, and then also interrogate the locate analysis, allowing me to get a good understanding of which sensitive elements in the environment I want to focus on for this assets management. Moving through, I'm then able to select EcoGrid 24, our transmission line, and take it through to the evaluate stage. Currently within Nature Vista, I'm able to download the automatically carried out evaluate assessment, both for impacts and dependencies. And in the full version, which I'll show you later, we'll be able to see details around that and view that at the site and the portfolio level as well. Within assess, I'm greeted by the sites that have been taken through to the assess phase and chosen for prioritization. These can be interrogated both in a list view, but also in a map view here. So I'm once again able to see which sites have been selected for the for prioritization as part of assess, and again reviewing their criticality and their spatial location across the portfolio. So selecting our site, EcoGrid 24, Nature Vista has automatically calculated or provided an assessment of the potential nature-related risks and opportunities that could be associated with this transmission line asset. These nature-related risks are presented here and categorized accordingly. The initial risk score has been provided by Nature Vista, and I'm able to filter by both the risk category, but also the risk score if I want to focus on either specifically physical risks or potentially my highest risk scores across the assessment. I'm able to review each of these risks in detail and then select when I feel like I'm happy with the specific score. So here I'm able to look at my specific risk relating to infrastructure damage from extreme weather. Nature Vista has provided me with a spatial output from the locate phase, so I can cross-reference any elements of the risk that are associated with this specific risk. It gives me a description of the risk that will be generated based on WSP's previous experience, any information that I've provided. The tool will automatically link both the associated impacts and dependencies that have caused this risk from the previous phase and evaluate. It has provided me with a summary of the financial effects, including the costs, and the measure for those financial effects. It categorizes risks according to the TNFD criteria, both physical and systematic shown here, and aligns it with the time horizons that I've provided the tool to ensure that it's compatible with my environmental risk management system. Finally, as part of the assess phase, the tool gives me both the scores in terms of magnitude and likelihood. These I can review, confirm, and adjust, providing justification if I disagree with any of these scores or wish to make a change. This process can be completed for all of the risks, and the interface with Nature Vista provides a very concise way for me to look at all of the risks associated with my specific asset, ensuring that I'm happy with the risk scoring, the associated impacts and dependencies, and the overall conclusions from this. Within the summary of assess, I'm able to see how the risks from my associated asset line up against others, and also able to quickly review whether there are any additional risks for other assets that I think might be relevant to mine that haven't been picked up previously within the assessment. This then gives me a list of specific risks that I've chosen to take through to the prepare phase. Within prepare, I'm once again greeted by my sites that I've chosen for prioritization. I'm able to select my site EcoGrid 24 and focus on the so what, so the selection of mitigation and the choosing of metrics and targets that I want to set for this asset. So again, here I'm able to see those risks that I've chosen that were originally generated by the AI engine, and then that I've reviewed and supplemented as part of my process. Within the risk details, I'm able to see the key information from the previous stage, including both the results from the evaluate phase, the description of the risk, and the scoring system and categorization. Within prepare, Nature Vista has automatically identified which metrics might be relevant for this risk so that I can choose how to set targets or KPIs against them. It's also brought through any defined targets or mitigation that I've previously provided to the tool. So the AI engine has matched my mitigation targets against these risks and opportunities, allowing me to very quickly identify where I have suitable actions or mitigations identified and where there are potentially gaps that I need to address. I'm able to do this for all of my risks, so I'm very quickly able to have selected my priority risks, but then go straight to the important parts about taking action and focusing on what I want to do to reduce these. As part of the summary view for prepare, I'm able to see the full list of risks, both for my site and for others, to look at which mitigation actions have been chosen, and to focus on whether I want to choose mitigation actions that address the highest risk criticality, or instead focusing on common mitigation actions that might address risks across a number of different categories or a number of different assets. All of this gives me a very nice summary where I can view the outputs of the LEAP approach across all the different phases and make sure that I'm comfortable in what actions I need to take for my asset, in this case, EcoGrid 24. So that's how Nature Vista can support us undertaking assessment at the asset level. But the other value that Nature Vista provides, and the other use case that we really want to talk through, is how Nature Vista can support companies at the portfolio level and those wanting to undertake an assessment across several sites. So in this second use case, we want to talk through how I would undertake this assessment as an asset manager or portfolio manager. In this case, say the sustainability manager for EcoGrid, looking to understand across all of my portfolio of assets, which ones of them are interacting with nature in the most material way, assess my top material risks and opportunities, and then disclose against the TNFD as part of my annual reporting. So hopefully you're familiar with how Nature Vista now looks. And so as was shown previously, as the portfolio manager for EcoGrid, I'm able to log into Nature Vista. I'm very quickly able to see where my sites are, review their sensitivity, and undertake quick visualization of the outputs of the locate phase based on a number of different integrated data sets. So within Nature Vista, I have the ability to choose from the internationally recommended data sets such as IBAT, using open source informations like Encore to reference the WSP data lakehouse and select nationally important data sets such as the protected sites for Scotland, or to upload my own site information and to combine all of those together into a single unified data lake for my assessment, which allows me to undertake my locate assessment according to both the LEAP guidance but also my company priorities, and ensure that the spatial assessment really matches my needs. If required, the AI capabilities of Nature Vista will recommend data sets based on my asset types and my categories that have been recommended due to WSP's extensive experience working with similar companies. So as the asset manager, I now want to view all of my assets. They've gone through the locate assessment, identify which asset categories I feel like I should prioritize in the next steps of the LEAP. And by that, I mean which ones have the most impacts and dependencies on nature, but also which ones are in the most sensitive locations. So Nature Vista has supplemented the default scores from Encore with WSP's experience in previous assessments to provide a more detailed understanding of the material impacts, risks, and material impacts and dependencies for my assets. Here in the summary matrix, all this information is provided, allowing me to very quickly compare site sensitivity, as shown by the colors on the graph, with the criticality or sector materiality based on the outputs from WSP's supplemented Encore scoring. So as it's shown here, I could hover over these dots, understand which assets are considered the most critical in terms of Encore scoring, but also understand which ones have the highest sensitivity, allowing me very quickly to understand which assets I want to focus on within my portfolio and take through to the following stages of the LEAP approach. Moving into evaluate, the real benefit for me as an asset manager is that Nature Vista utilizes the AI engine that Jenny spoke about to undertake an automatic assessment against the detailed nature-related impacts and dependencies. This is based on previous work undertaken by WSP, any information I've uploaded as part of the initiate phase, and then any publicly available information for sector types or asset types on the internet. Nature Vista has undertaken this assessment and very quickly summarized the likely dependencies shown here across the different categories of assets. So I'm able to understand how across my different asset types, which of them have high dependencies on nature, what those dependencies are, where there are overlaps between different asset types or different assets within the same asset type. And once again, can filter my way through large, complex data sets to get a very clear and quick understanding of where I want to focus on in terms of the most significant or the priority dependencies on nature or impacts on nature during the evaluate stage. To help with this, Nature Vista again provides a number of overview matrices that allow me to visualize the information shown in those tabular formats in graphic format or matrix format to enable me to make informed decisions and ensure that I'm constantly aware of where my priority should be as a portfolio or asset manager. Here, Nature Vista has summarized the outputs of the evaluate phase for all of my different assets. It's showing which ones are considered the most material in terms of dependencies on nature, and then also grouping them according to asset type. So I'm able to quickly decide whether I want to focus on a certain asset type, potentially here onshore wind shown at the top, or maybe on an individual asset that is coming out as having high impacts and dependencies, either from the locate information or as part of the evaluate phase. Potentially A3 is shown on the screen here. This process is also then brought through to the assess phase, where once again, Nature Vista's AI engine will undertake the initial assessment that I'm able to review as a portfolio manager, challenge, raise comments, or provide justification where I disagree, and undertake that at-scale detailed assessment of the risks and opportunities for all of my individual assets. As shown in the previous demo, that is then summarized by risk type and by asset type. And what's shown on this screen here is once again a way for me as a portfolio manager or within the sustainability team at EcoGrid to review all of the different risks and opportunities that are shown or have been assessed, understand their relative materiality to each other, and to me as a business, both in terms of internal business importance, but also external importance as defined by my risk management frameworks. It allows me to quickly get to the point of view where I'm able to review these risks for my portfolio, decide which ones are considered priorities and which ones I want to focus on, and then very quickly get through the assess phase so that I'm ready to get into a prepare and take action against those nature-related risks and opportunities for my portfolio. Within Prepare, Nature Vista provides me with once again, a very simple and easy way to look at the mitigation actions that I want to take against all of those individual risks at the asset level, to summarize those against different asset types, risk types or criticalities, and to easily assign targets and KPIs against each of those metrics and or risks. Given the automation within Nature Vista and the ability to very quickly condense or review large amounts of information, it has meant that I'm able to get to this phase much easier in the process, much quicker in the process, and that I'm able to focus on taking action and setting out how I want to implement change within my business and reducing these risks and opportunities, as opposed to having to spend large periods of time reviewing outputs and undertaking the assessment. Within the summary of the prepare phase as a portfolio manager, again, I'm able to filter and sort by my mitigation target types, specific overall targets, and if I want to review against those, but also which risk criticality if I want to focus on the most material or critical risks. And then finally, once I've completed my LEAP assessment, Nature Vista helps me carry out two key actions that are important to me as a business. So firstly, within the review phase of Nature Vista, I'm able to download and export my LEAP assessment. So all of the results that have been developed and reviewed by myself as part of this process are then exported so they can be included either in an ESG or an annual sustainability report, but also in CSV and tabular format so they can be integrated into existing ESG dashboards and or systems so that the outputs from Nature Vista can be fully integrated into how I manage nature-related risks as a business. In addition to the ability to export the overall assessment, Nature Vista provides me with an overall LEAP dashboard. Here I'm able to monitor how my business is progressing in terms of its initial LEAP assessment, if I've only chosen to use a subset of my sites to start off with, but then also how I'm progressing against the key actions that I've set, how the top risk categories are evolving if the assessment is carrying on, and how I'm progressing against any targets or KPIs that I've set as well. Nature Vista is currently built around the TNFD LEAP approach, but as a sustainability manager, if I require the metrics and targets to be set against a different sustainability standard, such as GRI, ISSB moving forward, there is the ability in Nature Vista to develop bespoke dashboards and to pull out the key metrics that I require to monitor against moving forward. So I will hand back to Jenny at this point.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for running through a couple of examples of how it could be used in different situations. So I hope that was helpful to people. We're just going to reflect then back on those 4 initial challenges that we'd identified through our work and in conversations with lots of different organisations. So essentially what we are aiming to do here is to pull some of that disparate data together to make things much more streamlined, much more simple and much more efficient by having everything unified in one data lakehouse that can be pulled from for all 3 modules within the platform. In terms of looking at an end-to-end solution, we have looked across how we really move from not just identifying locations and what potential risks might be, but really through that whole journey of understanding what that means for a business and how to actually try and mitigate or do something positive about the most prioritised sites or issues. From a compliance perspective, as Ben said, recognising that at the moment things are tending to align around where the TNFD guidance sits, but we are keeping an eye on obviously everything that's changing at the moment in the sustainability disclosure space, and will make Nature Vista agile to that so that it really does deliver what organisations are needing to do from a compliance perspective in different jurisdictions. And in terms of the impact assessment side, which of course is predominantly one of the other modules that we haven't gone into detail on so much today, just recognizing that by having this approach to pulling in data, to pulling in environmental expertise and using AI to its best capability, we can facilitate much faster screening assessments for users, reducing that reporting time and cost, and enabling more effort to be spent on action and implementation. So what's in it for you? So sort of 6 key points here. Firstly, in relation to confidence, we want to provide something that can give leaders within businesses the confidence to feel that they have the right information to hand and the ability to act on that information. In terms of collaboration, we recognise this can be a very useful tool to bring people together across an organisation around a single source of truth, around information that's held in one place, really empowering shared decision making and building internal capability across the different teams that necessarily need to be involved when it comes to considering a strategic approach to addressing nature across a business's operations. Also very important, of course, is transparency and credibility amongst stakeholders and particularly investors for many organisations. And so ensuring that this is a transparent process that organisations can go through and can demonstrate true kind of commitment and a scientifically grounded approach. We also obviously want to help organisations shift from finding compliance burdensome to actually making it more of an enabling situation where they are able to get their hands on information quickly, be proactive and make informed decisions. And also important, of course, is the consideration of targets, allowing people to explore what a realistic, defendable target might be, where to really focus on which targets are most important to have, and really making sure that commitments are both stretching but also achievable and avoiding any risk of greenwashing. Finally, what we feel is most important is that this really is aiming to generate an end-to-end solution, so it covers the sort of whole process that you would go through on that risk assessment side from a corporate reporting perspective, as well as then if you think up and down that triangle diagram that I showed at the beginning, enabling organisations to just pull information together at different scales across the business at different time points in terms of what they're doing and make the best use of information in the most efficient way. So I think that comes to the end of what we wanted to share with you. Please do use the Q&A function and then feel free to take down the details of myself and Ben either through the QR code which sends you to the LinkedIn profiles or directly by email. I think there's a couple of questions in the Q&A, but please do start to add them and Julie's going to help us, I think, in a moderation capacity.
Yes, so do not hesitate to keep posting questions in the Q&A section. Ben and Jenny, we already have a couple of questions here. The first one is what level of natural asset inventory a municipality will have to make this work for them?
Thanks, Julie. I'm happy to take this one, Jenny. So I think initially we've always envisioned Nature Vista to be predominantly around built assets. So an interesting question to go straight to natural asset inventories. I think this is something that you could definitely do with minor information. So within built assets, we say that you just need a specific point, so a coordinate for each asset, and then a categorization of that asset type according to the industrial classification code. For natural assets, that's obviously different, but I think key information such as so GIS spatial information, whether that's shapefile, raster, or point information would be really important, and then kind of a clear categorization of the asset type that we could then use Nature Vista for to identify the same process around, in this case, positive impacts, the dependencies around nature, and then the risks and the opportunities for those natural assets as well. So with all these things, we're able to carry out the assessment with minor information as long as we have coordinates and a categorization. The more information you're able to provide, the better the more detailed we're able to carry out the assessment, and the quicker we're able to get to that point as well.
Thanks, Ben. Another question we have from Scott. So, does auto-generated risk assessment convert financial risks into a cost in a monetary currency, like, for example, dollar?
Should I take that one? I can do. In the current version, not yet, but it's definitely a not yet. So that's something that we're actively looking at. We recognise that in the early TNFD assessments, this is often excluded. You know, it's sort of a piece that's missing, and so we're very keen to add that into the functionality of the disclosure module.
Thank you, Jenny. We have another question from Chris. Is there a limit to the number of sites that can be assessed through the tool?
No, that's one of the major reasons we've tried to develop the Nature Vista platform, is that there was certainly a limitation to the number of sites that we could take through the manual assessments that we've been doing over the last 2 years. So the whole purpose of Nature Vista is that a client or somebody with a large number of assets, whether that's hundreds, thousands, or more than that, is able to monitor them all on their site. Obviously, the more information you have, the more requirement there'll be for management and monitoring on the other side. But no, there is no limitation. That's the whole purpose of Nature Vista, that we want to create an environment that is scalable and can support companies and asset managers with a large number of assets that have therefore had a blocker so far in engaging with things like TNFD and nature assessments.
Thanks, Ben. I think, Chris, it's answering your question. I saw your sum up. Another question we have from Ernie. Can it be applied to linear infrastructure projects for option assessment and EIA?
So yes, definitely. I think, Ernie, so I think that particularly the option assessment and EIA would fall more under the impact assessment module. So within that, some of the work that Richard Clayton is undertaking currently around developing automated scoping and option assessments. So the assessment of design and planned construction, I think, would fall under the impact assessment module. During the nature disclosure, we'd be able to consider existing linear infrastructure or potentially planned linear infrastructure with regards to the impact it would have on future disclosures. I just think it's worth separating out any planned environmental impact assessment within that module and any disclosure and any assessment of existing infrastructure within the disclosure module. They'll obviously speak to each other. It gives many companies that have both existing infrastructure and new infrastructure a very nice way to undertake assessment of both and then combine those together as part of their management process. So yes, the answer is yes, but I think there's a few nuances to it.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Okay, so we have a question from Anne. Thanks, Anne, for your question. What to do when incorrect data is included and missing data is not included by AI? In other words, when an engineering consultant has made an error, whether deliberate or not, how can AI know or distinguish when the data is flawed? Thanks, Anne, for this question.
It's a really important question, I think, isn't it? Well, a couple of things I would say to that, and Ben, maybe you can add. So I think what we've built in here in terms of functionality is the ability to interrogate and change the information. I think that's a really important aspect that we think needs to be present so that it's not entirely reliant on the AI at all. And that a user can actually adjust that information from their point of view. I think this is a general question around the challenge with AI, more broadly, and how we, engage with it in a clever way without overusing it too much or over relying on it. And so I think the contribution of the oversight that we're going to have from our environmental expertise and a technical steering group across WSP will be important. And I'll make sure I take that comment back to the team. Anything else from you, Ben?
Yeah, if I could just add to what you said, Jenny, and I think on 2 specific points. So the first one is how we envisage AI supporting this tool. I think it's worth pointing out that the assessment will never be completed fully by AI. The whole purpose of Nature Vista, as Jenny mentioned, is it is designed to complement and enhance WSP's environmental expertise as opposed to replacing them. So the idea will always be that AI creates the straw man, the 60% version that can then be reviewed and updated. So I think the idea within the tool is very much a case that there will be QA, there will be review, and it provides the initial output that can then be enhanced. It's never providing the final output as part of this process. And I think something we've learned from the last 2 years of carrying out these assessments is very much that expertise and the input from subject matter experts is a vital part to make nature materiality assessments tangible and accurate. On the converse of that, I do think AI provides and maybe answering the first part of your question, AI gives us very useful tools within the initiate phase. So that wasn't shown too much. It was visualized in the video, but as part of the initiate phase, you are able to upload your information to Nature Vista. That includes both assets, location, previous sustainability reports, other relevant ESG data sets. We're able to use some of the capabilities of Nature Vista to QA that data at source based on the templates that WSP has provided, previous research and experiences as well. So within that data upload, we're able to use a number of tools to QA, QC what is being provided to ensure that before we even start the assessment, we've carried out a number of checks and that we're comfortable with that information. So then we're not just generating incorrect answers from incorrect data.
Thanks, Ben and Jenny. I hope Anne it's answering your question. I'm going to go to the next one. We still have a couple of new questions entering. So we have a question from Gregory. What are the data inputs you need from a potential client to perform the assessment? So just location and site data, do you need or can you integrate the client internal data from environmental assessment, for example?
Yep, absolutely. So I think this touches on a similar question to before. So the minimum requirements to undertake an assessment within Nature Vista is coordinates or for every asset that you want to consider, and then information on the asset categorization according to the International Standard for Industrial Classification Codes. If we have that, we can start the assessment and carry it through. Obviously, ideally we'd have more information, which would include GIS shape files of the ownership boundary or site boundary for every asset you want to include, details around the activities carried out at those sites. The more you can provide, the better. And then any other relevant ESG or environmental information that you have either for the assets you want to consider or for you as a business as a whole. On the question of site information, yes, absolutely, we can integrate that internal data, and that's something that we really want to do as part of Nature Vista, is to provide a platform that can combine both the currently used international and national GIS datasets, such as those provided by IBAT or UK nationally protected sites, or the WRI aqueduct information, and then complement and merge those with site level data that has been collected, whether that is on-site protected species surveys, habitat surveys, anything around water quality or other relevant environmental information that has been collected either due to a previous environmental impact assessment or as part of ongoing mitigation. So providing a single platform where we can take both that top-down and bottom-up approach to develop that accurate bespoke way of screening sites for their sensitivity or the nature sensitivity around them accordingly.
Sorry, I don't know why I was muted. Thank you, Ben.
No worries.
A very important question also from Scott that we discussed recently. Could this be used to help an organization align with the new ISO, sorry for the number, 17892, I don't know how to pronounce it, on biodiversity?
Yeah, so this is the new ISO standard that came out a month ago, perhaps, about integrating biodiversity into organisations. Yes, absolutely. So that standard is very much in line with particularly the TNFD and the approach to understanding dependencies, impacts, risks and opportunities. It goes further in the sense that it is looking at performance as well. So I think that fits neatly with Nature Vista and that module around environmental monitoring being part of the suite of tools in there. So yes, the answer is it would, yeah.
mute again. Thank you, Jenny. We have a question from Govender. Can Nature Vista integrate with other tools easily?
So that would depend on which tools, Navashini, but I think one of the intentions is that we recognise that many organisations have already got, subscriptions to, ESG reporting dashboards and so on. And so we don't want that to necessarily be a barrier to using Nature Vista. And Ben was talking to the fact that it would be possible to export some of the information from this platform. So that is certainly the intention, that we do help to facilitate that sort of crosswalk, if you like.
Thank you, Jenny. We still have a couple of questions there. So we have a question from James. How cross-compatible is this platform in other countries or continents?
So I'm happy to take that one. So yeah, very compatible. The whole purpose of Nature Vista is that it will have a global scope. So we don't see any limitations in terms of specific countries or continents. The reason the example shown just covered the UK is because currently that's where our initial pilot process for Nature Vista is undertaking. But within 2026, we are fully anticipating that Nature Vista can be rolled out to any scope, whether that is regional, global, any asset or industry type. The idea is that it will have a global scope, both in terms of geographical spread, but also industry types as well.
Thanks, Ben. We have another new question from Gustavo. Can Nature Vista be leveraged to support compliance with the European requirement from CSRD?
Yes, so we're looking at the various different compliance requirements. This is one of those, particularly in relation to ESRS4, but also several of the others. And we know that there are some ongoing discussions about exactly what CSRD will require different organisations to report on. So this is very live for us. We've chosen to kind of sort of launch with the TNFD as the main focus, primarily because we've seen the efforts that are being made to align with some of these other sort of older, more established sustainability frameworks. So that is certainly the intention, that it will be adaptable to different reporting requirements as far as they continue to be different.
Thanks, Jenny. Coming back on the data, we have another follow-up great question from Gregory about data. So does the platform take into consideration the fact that data will not be uniform across all assets? For example, certain assets will have detailed EIA data and species at risk or recurrency assessment, and others will only have high-level data. So is there a data quality score integrated in the tool?
So yeah, very good question. This is something that I think we are tackling at the moment, and I don't think there is a single way forward that will cover in all instances. So what we're currently envisaging is that we don't want to allow an absence of data to skew sensitivity or the locate analysis. And so we're envisaging that certain data sets are included for the screening and others are just for information. So I believe that information that is not uniform across all sites would likely be excluded or would be utilized within the locate screening in a certain way. I wouldn't be allowed to influence the results due to a lack or a gap of information. I think that goes back to the fact that we're very aware that many companies have unique circumstances, both in terms of the information they have available, but also the level of detail that they want to go into. And that's why within that locate phase of Nature Vista, we have the ability to develop bespoke scoring or bespoke screening systems to meet your needs. So in that case, Gregory, you would be able to either develop a data score or to choose which data sets you felt like were reliable enough to be integrated in, and then how you wanted them to be integrated in, whether you're waiting more for site level information or for those openly accessible data sets that do cover all sites.
So I don't see any new question for you, Jenny and Ben. I don't know if our attendants have a couple of last questions for us.
Just to add onto that point, just as we've got a couple of minutes, I think just again to emphasize the fact that this isn't a sort of just a platform, really. It's leveraging the expertise that we have across a vast pool of environmental experts globally. And so I think tackling things like that Gregory's raised on that most recent question are issues that we will be discussing in a technical steering group. We're really trying to ensure that we bring our real intelligence into the tool, and I think for us that's really kind of fundamental to how this is going to produce credible results for people.
So Jenny and Ben, now you've been challenged. You have 3 last questions for the last 5 minutes. We have a question from James. Does client data remain private and confidential, or will WSP have access to all data entered? That's a good question.
So yeah, that's a very good question. So as part of this partnership with Microsoft, there's a lot of importance, unsurprisingly, being placed on the data architecture and data security. So within each account created on Nature Vista, clients are able to identify who within their organization is able to see information and which information is also available to other people within WSP. So if there is a requirement for information to be kept within a project team of defined users, whether that's one WSP consultant and a project manager, there is the ability within the data architecture for that to be set up. We're currently working with a company where there is an ability, there's a requirement for firewalls to be created within their own users. And so that capability is also being put in place as well. So yes, if information needs to be kept private, confidential, or aligned with any kind of other requirements, there's absolutely the ability to do that. And as part of the initiate phase of Nature Vista, it's very easy for companies and clients to create those user accounts. There's support available from both the WSP side and the Nature Vista platform side in how to create that and advice on the best ways to do that. And yeah, hopefully the structure and kind of the foundations of that piece has been set up very well.
Thanks, Ben. 3 minutes remaining and 2 last questions so far. We have a question from Maeva related back to cost. In prepare mode, do you associate the possible actions that you find with their estimated costs?
Yes, absolutely. So already when we're doing prepare at the moment, one of the things we look at, particularly for opportunities and then also the associated mitigation, is the ease of implementation. Often that refers to cost and is normally scored on a qualitative scale, but there is absolutely the capability to integrate in quantitative costings if that information is available from either WSP's design side or client information as well. So throughout the tool, we have the ability to default to qualitative scales from very low to very high with defined scoring systems within that, but then also integrate in quantitative values, whether that's biophysical measurements or financial costs and cost of implementation as well as part of this, and summarize that information within those dashboards, both within prepare and risk and opportunities as well. So definitely something we can build in, but also not something that is required if that information isn't available at this stage.
Thanks a lot, Ben. I'm going to take the last question, and maybe if you have other questions, never hesitate to reach back to us individually after the call. We have a last question from Scott. You said next step is to take TNFD focus structure for Nature Vista to include others. Specifically, you said that you are looking at ESRS E4. But what if a client wants help across all 5 environmental ESRS?
Yeah, so I think it will have crossover with several of those, including the water and the pollution ESRSs as well. So yes, it would be obviously relevant to E4, but also a number of the others, and we would be exploring that. Yeah.
That's all for questions. Ben and Jenny, I'm going to remove my camera.
Great, thank you. Well, I think we've finished just about on time. So thank you everybody for staying and listening in. You will have our details. So if you'd like to understand a bit more about the platform and the capabilities and using it, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. And I wish you all a very good rest of your day.
Thanks all.